All right, welcome back to the channel. So Jermall Charlo said that he would knock out Canelo Alvarez, and now Canelo Alvarez is responding, and his response actually makes me more hopeful that we can get one of the best fights in boxing, if not the biggest, one of the best fights in boxing, which really should be happening, which is Canelo Alvarez versus Jermall Charlo. Let's talk about what Canelo Alvarez had to say in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So Canelo Alvarez has something to say about Jermall Charlo and whether or not Jermall Charlo can knock him out. And I'm going to tell you ahead of time, the answer is no, he cannot. But he does give some hope that we might actually get a chance to see whether or not that is true. But before we get into that, the reason that they were having the interview or the conversation to begin with was that, or is that, Canelo Alvarez has a sacrificial lamb in front of him named Callum Smith, who he's going to fight this weekend in San Antonio, Texas, on DAZN. I assume for a whole lot of money, in a fight that should be one-sided. Like Callum Smith, Canelo Alvarez said that he took the fight because he believes that Callum Smith is the best 168-pounder. If that is true, that just tells you that Canelo Alvarez doesn't think very much of anybody in 168 pounds, because Callum Smith is pretty much going to get beat by Canelo Alvarez, with Canelo Alvarez walking straight to him, blocking, parrying jabs, trying to get onto the inside. I don't think he's going to really be coming in behind the jab, but just defensively parrying and blocking shots, getting into close range, mid-range or close range with Callum Smith, looking for left hooks to the body to set up the right hand over the top or set up uppercuts, right? And I think it's going to be a better fight than the fight was with, say, Rocky Fielding. Like, I'm not going to say Callum Smith is a Rocky Fielding because he's not. He's a much better fighter than Rocky Fielding is. And primarily, when I say he's a better fighter, I think he'll take I think he'll be able to take more punishment than Rocky Fielding could, because Rocky Fielding was getting hit with body shots that he just was not conditioned to take at all. However, and I do believe he's also got faster hands. He's got a stronger jab, definitely stronger shots to the body. As far as the basic prototype of the fighters, though, very similar. So I don't remember when Canelo got Rocky Fielding out of there. He might have got Rocky Fielding out in, like, what did he get out in the 5th or the 6th or something like that. This fight might go to the 10th, might go to the 9th, might go to the 10th, somewhere around there. But Callum Smith is going to get broken down the same way that Rocky Fielding was. And though it tells me that, besides just common sense and having seen him fight several fights, was the last fight with, albeit a southpaw, in John Ryder. The John Ryder was just showed that if you get Callum Smith, if you're in mid-range or close range with Callum Smith is going to shell up and you're going to be able to get a good amount of shots in. You just got to be worried, from what I can see, that Callum Smith, when he's on the retreat, has a very good a very good counter left hook, or a counter right hook on the retreat that I've seen him hit guys with. But Canelo Alvarez is too defensively responsible, and he's too good with his upper body movement with slipping shots to be hit cleanly, consistently by Callum Smith. Almost all that stuff is going to get caught, get parried, get slipped. And Canelo was then going to lay very big, heavy body shots, very big uppercuts and overhand right hands. And I just think over time he's going to wear in the rib cage or the side of the head of and the neck of Callum Smith. But that said about Callum Smith, when that fight is over, 168 pounds is not the division that Canelo Alvarez really, where his best competition is. His best competition is with the guy Jermall Charlo at 160, where he is actually a champion, right? So he's a champ because Canelo's a champion both at 160 pounds, and he'll be unified at 168. I don't know if he's ever going to actually go back down to 160, but it doesn't matter because if he doesn't go down to 160, everybody else is going to move to 168 anyway. That's been the case. That's the case with the WBO champion for 168 pounds and Demetrius Boo Andrade. He's going up to 168 pounds in his next fight. It was announced today against Billy Joe Saunders. So you got to have and then I do believe that if they go up there, Gennady Golovkin eventually is going to go up there as well. Canelo's going to be up there, and then you have Jermall Charlo up there. You know, at a certain point in time, man, it's just going to be ridiculous. I think Canelo Alvarez most definitely needs to just sit down and fight Jermall Charlo. Now, what I said about Jermall Charlo, and even though Jermall Charlo is one weight class down, right? He's 160 and Callum Smith is 168. I do not believe at all that Canelo Alvarez would have the ability or to beat a guy like Jermall Charlo in the same fashion that he has been beating guys lately, like Rocky Fielding, like Sergey Kovalev, and like I believe that he's going to do with Callum Smith. And that is somebody that has the footwork and the agility to get in and out and stay out of range on Canelo and make Canelo come get him. Because Canelo Alvarez has terrific foot move. He has terrific upper body movement, terrific defense with his hands and all of that good old stuff. However, Canelo Alvarez is never going to be confused with Barry Sanders, man. He's never going to be confused with Pernell Whitaker with those feet. Okay, it's just not that type of fighter. So when you have somebody like Jermall Charlo who is just much more versatile and much more athletic, and I do believe he's every bit as big a puncher or bigger puncher than Callum Smith, that's just a completely different ball of wax altogether for Canelo Alvarez. And I think that that's really when Canelo Alvarez will be tested. Now, there's been a lot of talk about a Canelo Alvarez Errol Spence Jr. fight because, again, Canelo Alvarez was asked whether or not he'd be willing to move down to 160 pounds to fight Errol Spence. Something else is interesting about that. Why is Canelo Alvarez even considered having moved down to 160 pounds to fight Errol Spence Jr. when Canelo Alvarez is still a champion at 160 pounds? He is the WBC 160-pound franchise champion, and he is the WBA 160-pound champion. So what is the thing about this moving down? The only reason Canelo Alvarez, I maintain that the only reason Canelo Alvarez is at 168 pounds is so that he doesn't have to strain his body to make the weight at 160 pounds on a regular basis. And he was able to have somebody like the WBC and the WBA not enforce upon him mandatories or the necessity really even to fight a voluntary over a specific amount of time. I do believe that this would be the third fight. Yes, I think this is the third fight where Canelo Alvarez hasn't been at 160 pounds, but yet he's still the WBA 160-pound champion. It's just, some of this stuff gets kind of odd. But at the end of the day, I believe that Canelo Alvarez really is the type of guy that thinks he can win these fights. But that slick fighter or the fighter that has a lot of footwork, you've not seen Canelo face those type of guys ever since he had difficulties. Well, he lost to Floyd Mayweather Jr., a guy that could move like that, who had hand and foot speed advantages. A lot of people thought he lost to Erislandy Lara, who had the same type of advantages. And some people thought that Austin Trout beat him. And Austin Trout at that time was also much more, even though, I think it's fair to say Austin, he won the Austin Trout fight. But, man, I don't think any of those guys, with the exception of maybe the experience of a Floyd Mayweather Jr., are causing the type of problems that Jermall Charlo will cause for Canelo. Will he knock him out? Probably not. It'll go to a decision, and if it goes to a decision, Jermall will most definitely have to have really done and dang near has to knock him out to win. But Whatever it is, I just hope to see the fight. Anyway, you let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.